Thank you all so much for tuning in with us. I'm Candy.
I'm Courtney.
I'm Kendra Michelle.
And I'm Wisdom.
And welcome to
Chatty Catties.
I would first like to say some thank yous to a few people. The first thank you is to our sponsors. His name is Anthony Townsend, and he is the founder of Safe and Sound and Kinship Villages. And another thank you is to our other sponsor, Geronimo Speaks, who is also the founder of Solace Coalition. I would like to give some shout outs as well to Byron Bangs Walker, who is the owner of Archive Duplication. He's our graphic designer who designed our Chatty Catties t-shirts that we're wearing. Yes. Thank you. Another shout out is to our very own Miss Courtney Wade. The jewelry that we're wearing today was created by her. Yeah. And she is also on Instagram at Ebony Pearls Boutique. So again, if you want your jewelry, you want to look beautiful and fly, please contact this lady right here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Please, these are two phenomenal people. They both do amazing work.
Thank you.
So
amazing.
So today, I would like to talk about something that is very serious, and it is consistently happening in our schools, in our education system. So we all know about Donald Trump, who's trying to legalize teachers to have concealed firearms in the classroom. In my opinion, and I'm going to give my opinion, I think it's a bad idea because I work with kids, and it's already to the point where they don't even need firearms to kill each other, but to have a teacher in a classroom with a firearm, I think that's a crazy idea. I mean, what do you ladies think about that?
I totally disagree with it. My daughter's in high school, so she was a part of the whole walkout a couple weeks ago.
Oh, she was a part of that, good.
And they were talking about the whole issue with the teachers having guns. They actually wanted, at her school, they kind of mentioned they want to lock the kids in the room. Have them in a room all day. The teacher pretty much has the key to let them in and let them out. And I don't think the kids should be locked up in order to keep them safe. The gun thing is a problem. I'm not hearing a lot about changing the gun laws, which to me is the real issue. I don't think teachers should have guns. Most teachers, to me, are not cut for violence. So why are we giving them a gun? And then we're dealing with kids who are, you know, they know how to like get things done. They know how to break into the desk and get the gun. So what happens when, you know, a student gets a hold of the gun that's in the teacher's, you know,
or what if there's a teacher that's actually kind of crazy?
Right. Well, they just said, like, right after the march that a teacher was in training for the whole teacher have a gun in, I think, Florida or somewhere, and she accidentally shot a student.
See?
And this is the concern. Why would you give teachers who are inexperienced, I don't care how much training you give them, and then something happens, and what if they accidentally, you know, shoot a student by accident or kill a kid trying to save other kids and end up taking a life? So I just think it's like we're saying, okay, well, let's not get rid of the guns. Let's just give guns to everybody.
And that's kind of what I see, because I'm pro carry. I am pro carry. Man, I think everybody should have a gun. My only concern is more guns. You know, you don't fight guns with guns. And then on top of that, I don't know if the teacher's salary warrants them being an assassin. And, you know, I mean, now there is a moral duty that will cause you to stand up and do what you can. But you're asking me to now become, no,
like
that's the only thing. It's like you're fighting guns with guns, and then you're asking these teachers to now shoot at him, go, you know, it just went too far for me. Right. Now, far as the concealed carry and someone being crazy, I could, you know, I have a four. You know, I could be crazy. That's not my problem. My problem is not arming the teachers to protect them or protect the students. But I think that should be an option. I mean, I wouldn't be. My son is homeschooled, but I wouldn't have a problem if my son's teacher concealed to carry. You know, I laugh and joke about being in church. You know, they shot up church like, bro, me and Jesus gonna have good aim today. You like, they're serious. So I would feel safer if my son's teacher had a gun and knew how to use the gun.
Seriously?
I wouldn't worry about them being crazy. But my problem is that's not the way to fight the problem. Basically, this is not the solution to the problem you're aiming to solve. It's my thing. Like, that's not the solution. So my thing is, can a teacher conceal the carry? I don't have a problem with the teacher conceal the carry. But you're not solving the problem of someone walking into a high school, elementary with a semi-automatic weapon and mowing down people. You didn't solve that problem. That's my thing. That's not the solution.
And what training are you offering these people who probably have never even had a gun? Yeah. You know, I'm supposed to try to protect 30 kids and then use this gun at the same time. How is that even going to be effective? I don't see how that would work. And I think it would require extensive training. I don't see, I mean, it would probably be one day out of a whole 5-10 years that they even have the opportunity to grab it. Right. You know, and then
the kids, the teacher.
No, the teacher.
Oh, the teacher.
The teacher. And then on top of that, if they add additional training, they're going to need more funding. And we already have issues with the education system and funding. So I don't see how overall, if you grab all entities that, are involved in education, I don't see how it's going to be effective.
Yeah, it's not the solution.
I think it's a bad idea. I wouldn't feel comfortable with my child
totally
being in a classroom with a teacher that has a gun. I work with kids, and the kids that I work with, they can easily get that gun.
Right.
Kids are very smart.
Right, and that's what I was saying.
But
I'm totally against that.
It has to be on. Like I said, my big thing I just want to say is it's not the solution to stopping school shootings. Like your aim, Trump, and everybody else who's working on this problem, because there are multiple agencies that want to stop our children from getting killed. It's not the solution to that problem. Like, it's just, that's my first headline. Right. It's not the solution to the problem. Besides the money that it's going to cost to do this, guns don't stop guns. Like, I'm sorry. Like you said, all of these situations that you guys are pointing out that could happen. And my thing is, it's not with the teacher concealing to carry, though. That's the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this was a law where there was teachers saying, hey, for my safety, I wouldn't have a problem. But this is you saying, hey, we're going to solve school shooting by giving the teacher a gun. It's not, because like I said, maybe call me weird, but I grew up in a gun carrying family. Like, my grandma always had a couple guns, and these are legal guns. So I feel safer knowing that if something happened, hey, my son's teacher is strapped. Like, I mean,
and what about all the other legal ramifications?
And because I didn't have to. To get a FOID is a matter of not having a felony, filling out some paperwork, sending a picture. What training do I have? Same with the concealed to carry. It's a number. It's just a couple of hours, a Saturday of your life, and they give you a concealed to carry. So there is not necessarily the training. Like I said, it's just not the solution.
And I don't even think that's good. I think, there's other countries where they actually have to go through a psychiatric evaluation, and they're not allowed, there's certain restrictions if you get a gun. And I think we should all do more of that.
But these guns are stolen. Like, this puts me on middle ground with everything. I'm a gun owner. I plan on getting more guns. I fortunately just said I wanted an AK-47, and
for me, the whole idea of having a gun, I don't know. I guess
and that's what I'm saying.
I've seen situations go bad because a little situation.
But they're stolen guns, so you're going to put more laws on me because I'm the only gun owner, right? That's what I just heard.
Yeah, I'm anti-gun.
So you're going to put more. You're going to put more strict laws on me, law-abiding citizen, carrying that's my amendment right. When those who are doing these shootings, these aren't their guns. These, now, there's been a couple instances where this was their parents' guns, but for the most part, they're stolen guns. Now, my thing is, maybe you should start holding us accountable for being more careful. They should be in locked cases. And in the instance that my child or someone gets a hold to my gun and I was being negligent, punish me then.
That's what I mean.
Preventing me from getting a gun is not preventing them from getting a gun. It's preventing me from protecting myself, and I don't agree.
There probably shouldn't be necessarily prevention from you getting a gun, but I think there should be more restrictions so that you're less likely to let that gun get stolen.
Yeah.
Or to let somebody come in. Right.
Because
when
he happened to kill his parents too, but when he walked into school, he took their semi-automatic gun out their home. How was he able to access this?
Exactly.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Boy that did the
it wasn't
shooting,
in a locked case and things.
He bought that gun. He was 19. He bought the gun, and it was registered. He bought it, and I guess he had been making little posts about, you know, what he was gonna do, but he bought it, got dressed. He didn't even go to the high school anymore. Went there, shot up all the people, left the gun, left his little gear, and was walking down the street like.
And this was the last young man who had lost his mother, right?
No, this is the one. Well, I mean, there's been so many.
a lot of them, yeah.
This is the little boy that killed the 17 people. So that was a situation where he was of age. He went in. He bought a gun. It was registered, and he went and killed 17 people. It wasn't, you know, like he had a legal gun. It wasn't his parents' gun. It was his gun. And when they went and checked, he had bought it. But like you were saying, psychological evaluations. I think that should be, because just because you've never committed a crime, you got a good, you know, you're a good standing, abiding citizen, does not mean psychologically you need a gun.
Right. And that goes for the
guns in my
teachers
house.
too.
Right. I mean, I
That
just
goes
don't
for
like
my
guns,
house.
but that's a situation where he has some, I guess, some mental illness issues. He had just lost his mom 6 months prior to this all happening. He was going through some things.
Most people aren't in their right mind when
Right.
they kill another human.
But that goes for
He
teachers
doesn't
too,
need.
though.
He didn't need a gun, and then he was already feeling like he had been bullied. You know, the kids were making fun of him. He didn't have a lot of friends. The little girlfriend he had left him, and he got to the point where I'm just gonna kill everybody. So he went and bought a gun, and then bought the bullets, did everything the legal way in Florida, and came and killed 17 people. And as a parent, I get concerned when I drop my daughter off at school now.
Right.
Because that's the one place when she used to be at, and I did not worry. Now it's like you hear more about shootings at school
Right.
than you do when they're out and about. So I tell my daughter if something going on, she texts me all the time. Sometimes I'm like, I'm supposed to be doing some work, but I'd rather her text me and kind of keep me alert of what's going on, because you just never know. Like, these kids are bringing the guns in their backpack, and they're coming in, sitting in class. That's why I'm against the locking them in the classroom.
Right.
Because what if Jonathan got a gun in his
Exactly,
backpack and pulls it
exactly.
out? They can't get out.
And who
Right.
So
decides
these
what
are,
age?
you know-
The teachers. What if the teacher teaches kindergarten?
Right.
They're gonna have a gun in the classroom too.
That's why I don't-
You know what I mean? There's so many different factors
And there's
to play
always
into
a
it.
kid. You said you grew up in a family that had guns, and my family's from the South, so you know we knew
Yeah,
what
that-
guns.
that- my
Everybody in
family's
the South
from
had a
the South.
gun, you know, in their car, on their dresser somewhere. They was really open with it. But take a kid that knows about guns and a little kid who doesn't. What if the little kid that know about guns get a hold of the gun?
Right.
And
That's why I don't want no
But
guns
see,
in my
it's
house.
usually less likely
Right.
when growing up in a family where we carry. And basically, it's the fascination that usually draws a child to play with a gun.
Right.
That's just like when you see families who hunt, or families who just believe in being ready, or have militant families or whatnot, however you want to describe it. I was watching a young lady on Facebook break a gun down, put the bullets in. She had to be like 10.
I saw that too.
I was the only person who, I don't know what you guys, when you seen it, I was like, way to go. The fascination isn't there when they wander upon the gun that should be locked. You know, there's gun cases, there's gun displays, there's locks that literally prevents the trigger from being pulled. There's a key to it. So safety first, but the fantasy was never there for me growing up. Because like I said, I've always been around guns.
Right.
You know, I've always seen grandma shotgun. I knew grandma had a 38. You know, I seen it, and now I was never able to shoot it, but it was normal to me. It wasn't like, oh, a gun. You know, same thing for my child. It's not, oh, a gun. And now I think once they hit a certain age, then you should teach them how to use it. Like I've always, from day one, with my son, hey, this is for protection. My nephew, they live in a house with guns.
Right.
What is a gun for? Protection. What do you use
Right.
it for? You protect it for your family. It's not a toy. So like I said, all the kid has ever seen a gun was on TV and bang, bang. So when they find it, the fantasy says bang, bang. When no, we've talked about this. Right. You know what this gun is for. Somebody come through that door, somebody come through this window. This is what this gun is for. And my son has hit the age where we're about to go to the range. He's 16. So therefore, if somebody hit the door, he can get the gun and he will use the gun. That's just how I feel. Right. So like I said, my argument isn't that this is the solution. I just want to keep saying, no, the solution is not give teachers guns. But I'm just saying them concealing and carry is not my concern. My concern is you didn't solve the problem, brother. You know what I mean? Don't drop more guns in the school and tell me that was your fix. That's not your fix. And don't tell me tougher gun laws is your fix either, when if you look at the statistics, I'm pretty sure the scale weighs more towards that was not their gun. So you did not, so my thing is fix the problem. That, you know, I'm just a solution person, and it's fix the problem. That's not fixing the problem. What are we going to do to stop people from going in? Now, I did say I was going to get a AK-47. I'm cool with them saying no more automatics in civilians' hands. I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? My AK-47 is just literally, hey, terrorist attacks.
Right.
In America, we sit pretty like we can't be touched. But we can, though. You know, we think 9/11 showed us something, but I really do believe that we can be touched, and the day is going to come. You know, I'm a Bible-believing person, so the day is going to come. And my AK-47 is literally just for that day. You know, I wouldn't shoot the person who came through my window with the AK-47. You feel what I'm saying? But it would be on that day. But I would be okay if they said all AK-47s, you cannot buy them, and if you have them, you have to turn them in, we'll give you a small refund or something. I would be cool with that. But it's just that that's the problem. He didn't go in with a knife, okay, and stab 3 people or 10 people, because that just happened somewhere where right after that school shooting in another country, person ran around like a big time square stabbing people. So it's just the magnitude of the tragedy, because he can let off all of these rounds in a matter of seconds and reload and get it done again. Where if that was a handgun or if it was any other weapon, the tragedy wouldn't be so big. You know what I mean? Like, it just wouldn't be. So, I mean, now that's what I think it is. Even with me, like I said, AK-47 is okay, and why I want it.
I agree with that, though.
But take them off of,
Right.
But then guess what? We're still going to have. I'm not going to, we on TV. Listen, listen, there's people who never had a FOI card who owns a semi-automatic weapon. So my thing is, when we say no semi-automatic weapon, and he has it, I don't got one. You know, because I'm legal, he ain't legal.
But anytime you add additional restrictions onto a law that's already in place, the law probably was, you know, not
anyway.
not what it should have been anyway.
They
it's
all
gonna
broke.
make it worse. Anytime in the history, it's always anytime they war on drugs, war on, you know, it's always made the situation worse. But my family is from the South too. I just chose not to have a gun in my house at this time. Now, if my husband decides to have one, I mean, that's, you know what I'm saying, that's what he chooses to do, and we'll make sure it's locked up and
See,
safe.
that makes me nervous because my husband, he's all for having a gun in the house. I'm against it.
Girl,
I don't want
that
that
car
thing.
with my gun.
I don't want that.
You got to put me out
You
your
got a
car.
gun in my car?
I said, I'm not going to get in your car.
But you said you're a teacher though, and you know how kids can be sometimes. And what about these overly emotional people?
That's what I'm saying. Like, even if you train
know?
your child on how to use the gun, tell them, okay, it's not a toy. It's the fact that they
Those usually aren't the kids who are having these problems.
Not saying the kids are going to do it, but what about teachers that are at the brink? There are some teachers that are just teaching because they need to make ends meet. They're not necessarily teaching. Their motivation is different.
What if they poison all the brownies that they brought your kids on Cupcake Day?
I mean, that can happen as well.
Their
Yeah.
sanity, when it's like, hey, yo, a gun does not have to be used to kill people. Like,
it doesn't, but I think
I don't
if
think it's
right
right.
there,
I poison out a little
how about if
baby.
it's there, you're
Like
more
guns
likely
have
to
come.
get to it.
It's
Not
like
necessarily
everybody-
people that
and
do
the
it a lot.
kids,
You know,
that
they have
I
them
work
it.
with are very smart kids, and they can easily get
But conceal to
certain
carry
things.
means I'm concealing
Don't
my
matter.
gun is on my
Don't
person.
matter.
That's what
It
conceal
doesn't
to
matter
carry
though.
You
means.
don't think that
It's
guns-
not in my
when
desk. It's
people
not
have
in my bag.
guns-
It's on my person.
And you don't
Right.
think a person can get to you to get to that gun?
I feel like situations have gone. I've been in places where situations have gone.
There's less crime
south
in Texas in places
because
where
somebody had a gun.
my concealed
Because
carry
you
is
know,
out.
it could be a disagreement. It could be something. To me, when people have their gun, they act a little bit different.
No,
They-
people act different. You don't
not-
try me when you
not-
know I got my gun.
act-
I'm
not-
just saying.
and I
But
don't
some people
think-
will try you
I'm
though.
sitting pretty
Some
over
people
here, I
will
assure
try
you.
you. They
But
will. Some people
when
will.
somebody has a gun, little, you know, some exchange of words, things start going south where they didn't have it. They may be willing to let some stuff go.
But
when they
statistics
got
say
it,
concealed
they
to
tend
carry
you know what I'm saying? And I've watched
places
situations
have
where
less
if they didn't
crime,
have a
y'all.
gun,
I promise. Y'all can look this up.
No, we're not
wouldn't
saying
have
it's,
been
it's going to be
as,
less
you know-
crime. We're not saying that if you have a gun, you're going to shoot everybody. But the likelihood of you using that gun when you have it increases drastically
Yes,
than if it's in your glove compartment or in your
it's at
your
home.
house
But like I said,
or
I just
locked
don't
up.
think these are responsible gun owners that we're discussing. We're discussing deranged people. And so the mode is deranged. Is what if the teacher's on the brink of snapping? What if these are deranged people. Now that brought me to a feasible solution. These people, even in our broken urban areas that are doing these shootings, because that came up during the walkout, like, hey, let's not forget that this is happening every day in black neighborhoods across America. You know, if you look at the, you know, not to say it didn't matter that it was 17 kids and before that how many, this is a daily thing, a struggle. I don't know where you guys live. This is a daily struggle in my neighborhood. So the problem is the person, not the gun. Gun don't kill people. Like I said, I'm sorry, I'm only one sitting up
No,
here that
that's
carry
what we're
guns.
saying, though.
Guns
That's
don't
what
kill
we're saying.
people. So my thing is, if you want to fix the problem with somebody who decides that it's okay to go and murder 17 people, then work on the soul, work on the mind of that person. These young children who has watched their brother and uncle be murdered, or fathers in prison, they don't got no dad in the home, or this young man last in particular, you know, had lost his mother, who knew that his mind was like that? My thing is, so why aren't we working on the mental health of our children from day one?
That's what I'm. And
Let's
then they
start
grow up
there.
into these
and
adults.
that's feasible and that's real. I can work on teaching you how to manage your stress and et cetera, et cetera.
Right. But I think I feel like guns, I noticed I came outside and I got like the little like gun car, like if you want to do gun training, you know, take the classes, like they're sticking them all over your cars. That wasn't the norm.
I'm about to say, 'cause
It's
they
like
ain't taking
now
my
it's
gun.
almost like
It's
the
not-
norm. You know, I have a friend who was a correctional officer 15, 14 something years, and he was like, and I'm like, dude, why do you need to bring your gun here? And he's just like, nothing's gonna happen. Like, I just have a problem with guns. He's like, I'm gonna put it up. It's, you know, you got everything, but the point is, I just don't understand. Like,
And see,
why do you need a gun on you? Yes, something can happen. You can get hurt or anything, but I feel like if it's my will, if God's will, if it's my time to go, and it's my day, I don't think you can run from death. If it's your time to go, you can be, you know, in a store and you know, something.
Do you wear a
fall in
seatbelt?
the sky.
And see, I understand what you're
I do.
saying
If it's your
too,
day,
though.
take
Right,
the
but
seatbelt
that's
off.
what I'm saying. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like the gun thing, like all these new, like, oh, take the classes, get a teacher's gun. To me, it's not saying get rid of violence. To me, it's increasing it because now they're teaching more people how to use the gun.
And see, I have a problem with it too because I don't
wanna
feel
know how to.
comfortable. I don't feel comfortable with my child's teacher having a gun on them.
Right.
I do not feel comfortable. I don't even feel comfortable with the gun being in my house. My husband wants a gun in our house. I don't want a gun in our house because I'm afraid what if we decide to, you know, at some point have a baby. Baby grows up and just by chance, even if you train that baby
Right.
and all that
Play
other
with it,
stuff,
touch it, right.
we have a baby and then that child finds that gun and you know, you can tell them, oh, this is not a toy and all the information you can give them. I just do not feel comfortable with a gun being in my house or my child going to school with a teacher that has a gun. It's too much of it already.
I don't have a problem with guns. I just feel like you have to be properly equipped
Yes.
to deal and handle something that's so dangerous or can be potentially
Even if you're
dangerous.
properly equipped, there's some nutty people out there.
So what if your baby
But
goes
that's
to...
no, we can't stop. Mental illness is
Exactly.
But I'm just
Universal.
saying, even
Always
if you're not
exist.
mentally ill, I can be. I'm not mentally ill. I'm perfectly okay.
Same.
Exactly. But if I have a gun on me, I can possibly one day just get really angry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It doesn't. I don't think it necessarily has. It matters in terms of being not ill. But people sometimes, if you trigger them, you don't know what they're gonna do.
But
But
that's a
what I'm saying,
psychological
the
break, though.
likelihood
That's
of
still
you
a mental,
using
that's
it
a mental
increases,
issue.
but that's just because it's an additional tool in your tool belt. If you have scissors in your
That's
tool
why I don't
belt,
think it's a good idea.
Because my
You
thing
know?
is, you send your kid to the neighbor's house. Who owns guns? Let me guess. You're knocking on everybody's door asking, do you own guns before they can visit? No, you're not. But your child
But if
was
I
not
find out that my
properly
neighbor has a gun
prepared.
in their house, I'm not going to send my child there.
But before the incident, the same incident you said was going to happen in your house. You never talk to your child about guns, what they're for, what they look like. They find it in such and such shoe closet. They come over my house. They find it in my shoe closet. Now, mine's, like I said, mine's going to be locked. But I'm just saying, what if I didn't have it locked? And they found it in my shoe closet. Yeah,
Right.
my gun is pretty.
Well, they had this
you know, and they
situation
thought
with a
they
little
wanted to play
boy.
with it.
Ladies. Oh, we could go all
Girl, I
day.
ain't never getting in your car.
We
'cause
could go
I'm
all
telling
day.
you. I bet you want me to have my gun if something
she
happens. Because if something happen, I bet y'all be the same gun that you, because you said you cool. the
But
same gun.
we got to end it. We
Y'all
got to
want me
close
have
it. Oh my goodness, this conversation
want
got
me to have
real
it.
deep
I
and real
know that.
heavy. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. Please reach out to us. Email us at chattycatties5@gmail.com. This was Chatty Catties. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us.
bye.
I don't know,
we were
gun, 'cause
somewhere-
I had a gun. I'm walking around here like
You
I'm
better
a
not leave
gangster.
your gun
like,
in my
what?
house.
I had that gun.
Don't leave
in
no gun
somewhere
in my
now.
house.
I'll be the first person.
I wouldn't have been at this ceremony if I hadn't been at this ceremony first. Unfortunately, nearly 30% of U.S. high school students aren't making it to graduation. And every one of us, every parent, every friend, and neighbor, has the responsibility to provide the support and encouragement they need to make it through. Because we all need to see a lot more of these pictures.
Welcome to Video Magazine. I'm Stephen Patterson, and as usual, you know, we have another exciting show for you. But one thing that I don't want y'all to get used to, and that's seeing me on TV. You know, I love to be behind the cameras and not in front of the TV. But while we're going through this transition, I told you we were going to be talking about some interesting things. In our last couple of weeks, we talked to Simeon Henderson, who used to be one of the hosts of the show. Well, guess what? We got back Cinderlay, who's the other host of the show. We'll be talking to her and what she's been doing, and guess what? It's about independent filmmaking too. We'll be right back, and when we come back, we'll talk to Cinderlay and find out what she's actually doing and all of the people that's working with us. See you when we get back.
I wouldn't have been at this ceremony if I hadn't been at this ceremony first. Unfortunately, nearly 30% of U.S. high school students aren't making it to graduation. And every one of us, every parent, every friend, and neighbor, has the responsibility to provide the support and encouragement they need to make it through. Because we all need to see a lot more of these pictures.
Welcome back to Video Magazine. I'm Stephen Patterson, the producer of the show, but I would love to introduce Cinderlay. Some of y'all remember her from the shows that we've been doing, and I want her to tell you what she's been doing, and then she's going to also introduce some of the people she's been working with. Look forward to a great show. Cinderlay, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm so excited. I've been gone for so long. It's been 2 years.
Wow.
So I know, and I miss Simbo has been also doing independent films, and I've been talking to him occasionally. He's in and out of town, just like, you know, as I have been doing for the last 2 years. So I'm glad to be back.
Okay, busy is what you love to actually be. You don't want to be sitting around hoping that you're actually doing films.
Right.
And now what we're going to actually do is I'm going to give it back over to Cinderlay so she can introduce some of the people that she's been working with, and then we're going to have a wonderful conversation. But I want you to actually be part of the conversation by giving us a call and asking us questions. Of course, the show is taped, and these people are not in the studio at the moment that you're watching it, but we can get in contact with them to forward them information that you might want to actually know. So, with that said, hey, Cinderlay, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you've been doing, like I said, and some of the people you've been working with.
Sure. Well, I have been acting and producing for the last 2 years, and I brought with me here today 2 great partners that I have that we have done, you know, films together. First one is Mr. Ricardo Islas with Alpha Studios, and on my left is Mr. Mark Harris with 1555 Filmworks. We work together as partners in independent films, and Ricardo is a writer, director, editor, and Mark also is a writer, director, and producer as well. And we have worked in with so many different types of films. I will let them speak.
Well, when I met Cine, it was, I think it was 2004 actually. The first movie we did together was Night Fangs. It was a horror movie about vampires, and I remember Sim was very excited about being a vampire. That's what she told me. She called me on the phone and she said she was excited about being a vampire, so we did an audition and she was great. And she was great in the movie, and she's probably one of the most famous vampires of the last years who have been on the screen. And then we, after we shot and after we finished Night Fangs, we met Mark Harris. And then we started working, the 3 of us together. And the next movie that we did together, it was Mark's movie, and that was Holla If You Hear Me. And I don't know if you, Mark, want to give us any info about that one.
Well, I met Sin maybe like 3 years ago, and she was the actress in Holla If You Hear Me, and Ricardo was the DP and editor for Holla If You Hear Me. And it's been a wonderful ride with the 3 of us just making movies together.
Okay.
It is so much fun making films with them because they're so knowledgeable in not just in writing, in editing and producing. That's why we work together so well as a team, because well, I can't direct, I can produce, and I could act and produce, and so we take each, all those great qualities and we put them all together. And that's why our dynamics work so well, because of that. That's why our films are just so wonderful, and I can't wait for you guys to see it.
Okay.
The film that actually we're currently screening here in Chicago during the horror festival is titled Lockout, and that is one of our most controversial films yet this year.
Okay.
Well, that's the one you guys saw the trailer for.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so why is it so controversial? I mean, it's not. I mean, the trailer looks great, of course. What's the controversy in it?
Well, I guess it has to do with the fact that the movie is based on reality. And this is a time in this country when 99% of the movies are based on other movies. So when you make a movie that is based on what you see in the streets, some people might get a little itchy.
Uncomfortable.
So I think
Because they don't want to deal with reality,
Yeah. So maybe that's why, and it's funny because after all, it's a horror movie.
Exactly.
Except that the premise for the horror movie and the way the characters are defined has to do more with what we see in the streets every day, and not so much with a remake or a sequel of another movie that I saw 10 years ago.
Right.
And I think that might be the reason why we're getting some kind of controversial comments from, at this point, distributors, because the people haven't seen it yet. I mean, the first time they're going to see it is on the festival.
Okay.
So it's still to be seen what the reaction of the audiences will be, who are ultimately the only ones that really care. They really matter.
Right, right. Okay, so we was talking about, the different films, and so why don't we go into what I would like to actually do is, what I like to do when I talk about independent film or any film, is first by having the producer to give us a synopsis of the film. What's the film about, in short verse type of thing. So can you actually tell us a little bit about, give us the synopsis?
Well, Lockout is the story of a common American man who is fired from his job in the first scene of the movie. Okay. And because of this, his life changes and his family life changes, and they're forced by economic reasons to move to a rural area in Wisconsin, to a house that they had in Wisconsin. So it's a complete change of life and environment and everything. With this change comes along a series of very mysterious events that they encounter in this new house that is increasingly taking them into a nightmare of violence and horror, and after all, it is a horror movie. Now, the reason we were saying earlier that this is a controversial movie is because the setup for the story, anything that happens to these people, to this American family, that forces them to move to Wisconsin, has to do with some realities that we see in this society that it seems to be is affecting some of the viewers, maybe because they see a mirror that they don't like to see.
Okay.
But once again, one thing that we have in common is that we like to produce movies that are based on reality, even if they are of a horror genre, as opposed to movies that are based on other movies that we saw previously, which is what Hollywood seems to be doing all the time with their sequels and their remakes. They don't want to take any risks, so they are always producing and reproducing what has been done before. Opposed to that, we are making a movie that, even when it is a common genre as horror, it is based on the facts that we think or perceive on life on the streets.
Okay. And so, Cinderella, what's your role in this film?
I played Chris O'Neill. I am the wife of the guy that got fired. And her part, I love her part because, she's a suburban wife, nice house, everything is just nice until he gets fired. So, I'm forced to live in this little house that we owned in Wisconsin, and just, let me tell you, making this film, it was incredible. We had 15 days to shoot the film, straight. We work straight. We go from Chicago to Wisconsin, and it is so intense. It's constantly intense because we shoot from, you know, one location to another. We're in a farm, and it's incredible. And just to be able to play that role was so wonderful for me because it's a totally different role from what I just played with Mark Harris's piece, which is Holla If You Hear Me. So it's fun to play a different character all the time. So yeah, so I hope you guys will be, you know, able to see the Lockout, because I played Chris O'Neill in that, then I played Jessica in Mark's Holla If You Hear Me. I played an R&B artist, and that is, you know, girlfriend of a hip hop artist. Totally different role. I love the different roles that we have. So
well, that's a great segue into Holla If You Hear Me. As far as, why don't you give us a synopsis of that film as well?
Well, Holla If You Hear Me is a hip hop horror, and it deals with a group of R&B singers and rappers who are lured inside this studio, and they're being killed off one by one. By someone who wants to get away with stealing their tracks. So, I mean, basically that's just the gist of the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I take it that y'all like to scare folks. Now,
it is fun.
No, but seeing how, you know, we're saying, you know, you're doing horror films and they're based on reality, I don't know how to actually put this. So
well, we live in America in the 21st century. Horror and reality are very much married at this point.
Okay.
So if you're wondering, you shouldn't, because really, what we see is pretty scary every day in the news.
Okay.
And we can barely match reality with our little horror movies, to be honest.
That's right.
Yeah, that's very true, because when I read the script and they said, how can you think this way? I said, that's such a wicked mind. And then,
thank you.
you know, it's wonderful, because how do you come up with stuff like this? I always ask him that. And then when I go on the internet, I'm researching something, and then I hear in the news that this thing occurred 20 years ago, 50 years ago, or it's occurring right now. I said, oh my gosh. And here I'm thinking, this can't possibly be happening, and it is happening. So this is when reality, you know, meets movie, you know, and it's amazing. And like Holla If You Hear Me, you're thinking a bunch of, you know, rap artists and hip hop artists are lured into, you know, the studio, and they're getting killed by one because, you know, someone stole the tracks. And you hear this in the music industry, when someone, you know, has tracks, people go out of their way because they know it's worth a lot of money. So once again, there's truth into everything that we do, you know, and that's why first I wasn't sure, you know, that I want to do horror, but then because it piques my curiosity, I've always wanted to play a vampire, so that's when it started. And it snowballed from there. Now I'm like horror queen. No, but actually, we are working on so many other projects that are psychological thriller, that are going to be drama. There's so many things that we're working on in the future.
Yeah, tell me anything. I know you just want to actually bite into somebody's neck, you know,
that's fun.
chop somebody's head off or shoot somebody.
I mean, how many opportunities do you get to have to change your personality, and suddenly you're this, you know,
but
vampire?
You haven't changed it that much, really.
Don't I look like a vamp right now?
Well, there's one thing about horror, and this has to do also with market. Horror is one of the few genres that you can get away with selling without having names attached to it, stars, because it has a very loyal, hardcore, how do you say, core
following.
Yeah, that they don't really care that much if they're going to see a star on it or not. So that's the reason why so many independent filmmakers in this country and anywhere resort to horror when they're getting started. That wouldn't really ring true to me, because I've been doing horror since 1985. So I'm doing it because I like it. But that's still, even if I've been doing it since 1985, I've done other genres as well. And I know for a fact that when you're doing horror, you can get away with many things that in other genres you can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense. And that brings me to something that you did say that I didn't talk about at the very beginning. Inspiration, as far as what inspired each one of you to actually even go into the independent film era where you know, sitting at home and looking at TV and say, "Oh God, I could do better than this," or you know, did you go to the theater and you go, "Ooh, one day," you know, one day, and then you was writing screenplay and you say, "Hey, let's take it to the silver screen," as they say. Why don't we start off with you, Mark, since you got that look in your eye, that glimmer?
For me, it was. I mean, I started off writing, and I had no idea. I mean, I just didn't want to direct at that particular time, and so I was like really forced into directing because, you know, I had a couple of scripts that were supposed to be produced out in LA, but it never happened. So I just gave it a shot, and I shot my first film in 2004, which is White Man Cheat, and it's with a company called Day for Night, and so that's I mean, I was just like forced into it. And then after that, you know, I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, I love it actually, you know. And but I mean, I think I'm more of a writer than a director. I mean, I really don't consider myself as a director. I consider myself as a filmmaker because it's like a process. I mean, it's like different people working together. You know what I'm saying? And the director is really like the quarterback. It's like a football team, you know.
Right.
And the director is the quarterback. So I don't consider myself as a director, quote unquote, but I am a filmmaker. You know, and I just work with a group of people just when we get it done, and that's the most important part about it, you know.
Okay, makes sense. And Cinderella, I dare not ask you, so I'm gonna jump right over to Ricardo. Ricardo, what was your inspiration?
Well, it started, you know, as I said before, it started very, very long time ago.
Right, right. But even then, what happened?
Well, even then, but I mean, even then it was different because we're talking about not only long time ago, but as you can probably feel by my accent, also in another part of this planet.
Okay.
So I am from South America, a small town in South America, in Uruguay. So back there, I just had no other option. If I ever wanted to get a project or a movie done, there would be only one option, and it's to make it myself.
So, right.
But it was different from Mark, who had the chance to do it independently. I could have never done this independently in a small town in South America because I could barely eat, you know.
Right.
So I went to the TV station like this, and I talked to the people at the TV station with a script under my hand, and they read it, or maybe they didn't read it. They just probably they didn't. I mean, they told me that if I could get some sponsors, they would make it happen, and that's how it began. So, but that's as far as how it began. But as far as inspiration, I have to say that I do what I like to see. Since I can remember, I've always liked horror movies. I grew up watching American television dubbed into Spanish. So I saw American television and also European television. I saw many horror movies from the 50s and 60s from the United States, but also from Britain, from England. And I got to love them, I mean, especially the British one, to be honest.
Tell me one of your most favorite ones.
Oh, Christopher Lee playing Dracula for Hammer, you know, and Peter Cushing playing Van Helsing. I mean, those guys really made my days in my childhood. And so I grew up loving that and loving an American show, TV show. Many people in my age probably remember it, called Kolchak, the Night Stalker, with Darren McGavin from the 70s. That was shot in Chicago, actually. So it was those movies and those TV shows would really fed my imagination as I was a little kid. So when I became a teenager and I started writing, eventually I went to this TV station and started making movies, but it was kind of an accident. As Mark was saying, I wasn't really set out to be a director. I wanted somebody to produce my scripts.
Right.
And because that was absolutely impossible in a country without movies, or without movie making industry, I had to do it myself. And then you get to like it, and then you get to get used to it, and then hopefully you get better at it, and you start maybe winning some awards here and there, and you move on. But this is like this is a hard to kill habit. Once you get to do this, I mean, it's very.
You're hooked.
Oh yes, you're hooked for life. You really are. If you walk away from this, it's because you were looking for something else. Maybe you were looking for fortune and glory, and then maybe you will walk away from it. But if you do it because you love it, you can never live it.
Okay, so why don't y'all tell me about some of the film festivals that y'all participated in thus far with previous films?
Well, we could start with the latest one right now.
Well, Blackout is currently playing in the Chicago Horror Film Festival,
Okay.
which is its natural niche, of course.
Appropriate.
Yeah, but the previous movies like Knife Fangs, To Kill a Killer, another movie we didn't talk about, but other movies that we've done, they participated in the Chicago Latino Film Festival.
Okay.
And also, well, in my case, because I come from another country, I participate in other festivals in other countries as well, in Uruguay, Argentina, Colombia, other places. So, you know, it's the festival circuit is very good, and you can show your work, and you can get to know a lot of interesting people. But it's an opportunity to show your work. That's it. What we really need to develop, and is not well developed, is a strong market that sustain independent production. And as much as we hear talking about independent movies and so forth, that is not really so true. I mean, there are many movies that are not being shot at a Hollywood studio, so you might call them independent. But the truth is that the distribution companies that handle them are actually branches of major studios as well.
Right.
And so when these guys are making those movies, they are really, when they write them, when they produce them, when they direct them, they're thinking of how to please the studios, after all. I mean, a real independent movie is when a person and a group of persons like us take the initiative to make a story into a movie just as they want it, not as they're supposed to make it to please somebody that is giving you directions through a speakerphone or something like that. If it were the Charlie's Angels. And so that's why I am a little critic about the so-called independent movies in this country that are made with $1 million, $2 million. I mean, the real independent underground movement is happening at a completely different level, and we are finding a very hard time to distribute what we do. Not because there aren't distributors out there that are going to take it, there are, but they're not going to pay, or they're going to pay very little.
Unless, you know, you have a stars, you know, attached to it. We're finding out now, looking for a distributor, you have a higher chance of getting distributed if you have 1 or 2 stars attached to the movie. Right. I mean, as a producer, I was, you know, I started as a model, and then I started going into acting, industrials. I do a lot of those things. When I met Ricardo, he's given me the opportunity to produce. And at that point, 3 years ago, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I knew that I tapped into something that I know I could do with, you know, the right training. So he's been a great teacher to me, and taking me on and asking me constantly to help with the project. And same thing with Mark. Mark has given me the opportunity to produce, you know, the films with him. So I'm working as a producer for both of them, and we're all working together as producers. But you find out when you reach the point that your film is done, you go into distribution, there are so many politics that goes into it. So many. And, you know, I think that the films that we have done are, the script is very original, and they're, you know, they're well written, they're well shot, but yet, because there are no stars attached to it, Hollywood stars anyway, we're stars, you know, but no Hollywood stars attached to it, they don't offer you as much as, you spent this much and they're offering you, it's almost an insult at times.
Let me break into this to say something that is important, because the audience might think that we are guys who are making movies, and because the movies are not being picked up, we're kind of, you know, like, how do you say this in English? Yeah, like crying babies, you know. Oh, yeah, the industry is so bad because the movies are not being picked up. Okay, it's important that your audience understand that we made a movie, Knife Fang, and that movie was picked up by Warner Brothers. So it's not like we're not being picked up. Warner Brothers picked the movie, and it's all over the country in Comcast. So, but the point is that the money is being made by other people, not by us as producers. And that is because when you get into distribution deals, I mean, the business is crooked up. It's crooked. It's very crooked. And there's a lot of people that are taking advantages of independent filmmakers, with a bunch of lawyers that will write contracts that are 14 pages long, And if you want to compete, you have to have your own lawyers. And if you want to,
Right.
you know, and it gets very expensive at the end of the day. And so, but the truth is also that there are so many people making independent movies right now that these guys, the distributors, can basically do whatever they want. Because you know, if they know that if you don't go with their deal, there's a whole bunch of other guys out there that are going to give away what they do for nothing, because this is a misconception. And I hope that there are young people watching this show right now, maybe hopefully they want to go into filmmaking. There is a big misconception, and the big misconception is that somebody is going to see your work on a shelf and is going to discover you and take you to Hollywood. Guys, I'm sorry, that is not going to happen.
That's right.
That is not the way it works. You have to take your butt to Hollywood and live in Hollywood and make friends and go to a lot of parties if you want to be in Hollywood. Because you make a movie with your friends and you give it away for nothing to a distributor, the only thing that you're getting is a distributor that is making money for free. But you're not getting yourself into a Hollywood star. That's not how it works. So what should happen is that everybody who is making independent movies gets stronger, and they do not give their products away for nothing.
Exactly.
So distributors will have to pay like they used to pay in the 60s, in the 70s, and in the early 80s, until everybody started making movies because of digital technology. When everybody started making movies because all you need is a little camera and a PC, then everybody started giving the movies away for free. And then distributors, of course, they're business people. You know, if you give them something and you say, oh, I just want to be on TV, or I just want to be on a shelf on Blockbuster or whatever, or on Walmart or whatever, the distributor's going to take it. It's going to give you, oh, it's going to say, I don't know what I can do. I think I can give you $1,000. And then they make $100,000. It's a great business for them, but what about us? What about the
It
producers?
is amazing.
But don't they actually give you what your cost was?
No.
As far
Are you kidding?
Oh, Hardy, I think I hit a nerve there. I think I hit a
went,
No, they don't.
Yeah, for Holly, if you hear me, I had a company who called. They were interested in the film, and they called. You know, they said they want to make a deal.
They all do.
Ooh, okay. I like the way you say that.
And the deal was, we'll distribute your film, but they won't give us anything up front. You know, and they tell you that, like Ricardo was saying, they tell you that they're going to go 50-50 with you, but you never see that money. Never see that money.
This is what they do. And please, guys, if you're watching here, just if you want to
This is
make a movie,
reality
this is
checker,
how
yeah.
it goes. They're gonna tell you, maybe they're gonna give you some advance. That it's gonna be a joke most of the time, and then they're gonna give you royalties, and that's on a contract. It's just royalties.
Everything's
Right.
But everything is on a contract. But they will give you royalties after they deduct the money they spend
Marketing
on marketing
expenses.
or whatever, and that's when they lie. That's when they start. They say, oh, but I have $20,000 expenses in marketing
On
this
what?
month.
Yeah,
On
exactly.
what? These are independent movies. You don't see this on primetime television.
right.
You don't see banners on the streets or on the. I mean, we are here. We are on the internet. Where are your banners? Where is it? I mean, especially when you make horror movies, there's only one or two main channels where you can publicize a horror movie. That is Fangoria magazine and some websites. If you didn't see your banner or the advertising for your movie in those magazines, because they're spending nothing on it. So when they come to you and they say, I spent $20,000 on marketing, on what, with your mama? Where do you spend that money? That's baloney.
And this is from experience.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is from
that's,
experience.
we have experienced
So
that.
they send you a report every 4 months, and the report says that they're making $60,000, that they cannot give you anything because they're spending money on marketing. So maybe on Mars or in Jupiter, because on planet Earth, I
Because we
didn't
don't
see
see
any marketing.
it. We were looking.
Maybe the
for-
Martians are buying it, but here it's not happening. So
Okay, well, that we definitely need to get into a little more of that. What we need to do, though, is we're going to wrap up this part of the show, and what we'll do is have you come back once we actually roll our next one, and we'll talk more about this distribution deal, as well
it's a
as
fascinating
future,
subject.
as well as future filmmakers, some of the things they need to look at, and some of the projects that y'all actually working on. I just want to thank y'all for actually coming on to the
Thank you for
show
having us.
and sharing with what y'all have done thus far. And we look forward to talking to you about what you're going to be doing in the future. But right now, why don't we kind of wrap up the thing with just giving people a little information on future projects that you might actually have coming up, meaning early next year that you think that you may actually be doing, or you know, just say in the future we're planning on doing more horror films at that point. And let's just have any last few words, starting off with Ricardo, since she was just not speaking.
Well, right now we're currently working in production already. We start shooting in a week.
Okay.
A new movie called El Día de los Muertos, The Day of the Dead, and it's bilingual. It's Spanish and English, and I am looking forward to target a different market, which is a bilingual Spanish market.
Okay.
So it's a horror movie also.
We'll definitely talk about that then on our next show. And what about you, Cindy? I guess you'll just still be hanging around doing horror stuff all the time, huh?
I love it now. I used to be so scared of horror movies, but I love it now. No, we're working on El Día de los Muertos together. I'm playing Samantha, and you know, playing another whacked out, you know, personality, and I love that. I love challenges. I like to push myself, you know, to go for different roles. But we're working together. I'm producing also. Mark is also producing. Ricardo is directing, producing, and he's also the writer for that. And then Mark also has other projects that are upcoming.
Okay. Which projects do you have upcoming?
Well, I'm producing the other day with Ricardo, and after that, we're going to decide on if we want to go with a romantic comedy title, I Used to Love Her, or a horror film called Zombies in the Hood. So either one of those.
Okay.
I'm just undecided right now.
All right. Well, thank y'all for actually coming, like I said, on the show, and welcome all of your questions that you might actually have for our guests on our show. Please give us a call. We'll forward those questions to them and get back to you on them as far as what they're actually doing. You'll also be able to look on our website and get links to any type of information that might be set up there. And we look forward to talking to you next week on the Video Magazine. Thanks.